Reigan Heskey is currently a Manchester City academy player. Despite his father Emile playing for clubs such as Liverpool and Aston Villa, Reigan has been at Manchester City's academy since the age of 8. He currently is a member of the Manchester City under-18s team, but has been stepping up to play in the Premier League too. He has currently turned in some impressive performances, scoring goals at every level he has played at. His most recent call-up to England was under-17 level, where he's going to represent above his age group. After reading various reports and watching numerous videos, you can see that Reigan Heskey is built to be a left-sided attacking player, but he can also double up as a right-sided player, and if you need him, you can play him through the centre too. He is a good height for a winger, being around 5'9", and it means that one of his best attributes is ball carrying. He can approach players and beat players at ease, moving into attacking areas and being creative for other players, as well in scoring goals for himself. That brings me on to another of his strengths. As mentioned earlier, he has scored goals at every level he has played at, including up to Premier League 2 level. He obviously has an eye for goal, and he has picked this up through his father. If there are any weaknesses to his game, it is probably the fact that he's a little bit weak on the ball, and when he comes up against older players, will need to improve his upper body strength, and sometimes he doesn't pick his head up enough to look for a pass. Overall though, as an attacking player, he's everything that you want and should develop into an elite winger. Thanks to the hard work and dedication of Passion for FM, we can show you what Reigan Heskey would look like if he was part of the FM24 database, and possibly give you a little spoiler as to what he could look like when added in FM26. If you want hundreds of the latest Wonderkids to add to your FM24 database, make sure you visit Passion for FM and download their next gen database. There will be a link to that in the description down below also. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at Reigan Heskey and seeing how he can develop across his career. We're going to go through 15 years of his career to see what the future might hold, using FM24 as our guide along the way. You can see at the very start of the game, I've started in 2024. Reigan Heskey is a 16-year-old promising striker, which is classifying him as a frontman, even though he plays as a wide player too. Looking at his attributes, it is about the crossing and dribbling in his technicals. He has a lot of room for development there. In terms of the mentals, it's aggression, determination, flair, and the teamwork. And then in the physicals, acceleration, natural fitness, pace, and stamina. Don't forget, these are just rough guides as to what we think he could look like if he was in the FM24 database. So let's run the simulation and see what FM24 think is going to happen in Reigan Heskey's career. At the first checkpoint, we are 5 years into the future. Reigan Heskey is now 21 and he's still at Manchester City. He has broken through into Manchester City's first team, but it did take a couple of loan spells away from the club to really aid that development that you can see in his attributes. Firstly, he went to Huddersfield, where he played 16 times and scored 7 goals. He then went to Brentford, where he played 15 times and scored 7 goals. And he currently has 67 appearances and 16 goals for Manchester City. Going back to the attributes, you can now start to see he has had that explosive amount of development in the first 5 years, and FM24 think he's really going to develop quickly. Looking at the technicals, he now has standout crossing, dribbling, finishing, heading and long shots. In the mentals, it's composure, determination, off the ball, and in the physicals, he now has blistering acceleration, good pace, exceptional stamina, and he's developing into a world-class footballer. The big question here is what's going to happen as we move along his career. Will he stick with Manchester City, or can he go anywhere else to aid his development? At the 10-year marker, we find Reigan Heskey is still at Manchester City. He's now 26 years old and he has played 197 times for Manchester City, scoring 58 goals. The one big thing that you can see now, though, is he's starting to reach those peak years of 26 to 30, where the attributes are beginning to develop thick and fast. Looking at the technicals, it's now crossing of 16, dribbling of 16, finishing of 16. In the mentals, composure of 19, off the ball of 15, anticipation of 15, determination of 15. In the physicals, though, This is where he's going to burn defenders. 17 acceleration, 16 pace, 16 stamina, 16 natural fitness, and 16 for agility. He really is developing nicely as we go into that latter stage of his career. Is there any more development to come? And just how good can Reigan Heskey become? At the final checkpoint, we are now 15 years into the future, and Reigan Heskey has decided to swap Manchester City for Real Madrid. At the age of 31, he is described as a legendary striker, and he has now played 62 times for Real Madrid, scoring 30 goals, giving him a career total of 381 appearances and 146 goals. In terms of the attributes, there is a little bit of decline you can see in terms of the technicals. He has advanced in some places, but his dribbling has dropped to 14. His finishing has gone up to 17. In the mentals, off the ball is up to 16. Composure is up to 19. And in the physicals, there are a few attributes that have started to drop off. His pace is down to 15. His acceleration is 16. Agility of 16. But his stamina and his strength are still there. In terms of what FM24 thinks is going to happen to Reigan Heskey, he could go on to be a generational talent. Manchester City, obviously through Emile Heskey, his dad had a good footballing pedigree anyway, but it seems that Manchester City have a bit of a diamond, and it could be that if FM24 is right, Reigan Heskey could go on to outperform his dad, and certainly if this career path is the one that he follows, he would go on to become an elite player and a legendary striker as described in the game. Now, don't forget, this is only a simulation of what could happen in his career. We have inputted the data, and FM24 is telling us what is likely to happen. And looking at the videos and some of the evidence to back up what the game is saying, Reigan Heskey really seems like he's going to be one of those players that once he hits the top flight and gets into adult professional football, his development is going to take off. And he really could be one of those players that is absolutely anything. Right then, that is a roundup of Reigan Heskey, and we have seen what FM24 thinks is in store for his career. Also give you a little snippet of what could be in FM26. Obviously, we don't know what the database will look like because it's too far in the future, but if it's anything like this is a player that you will want to put a ring around his name on a piece of paper somewhere and come back to it when the new game is released, because if you can get him away from Manchester City and develop him like this, you're going to have a beast of a player. Right then, once again, if you want to get players like Reigan Heskey into your database in FM24, go to Passion4FM, download the Next Gen database. Also, there will be a link to that database in the description down below. But for this video, I'm going to leave it there. A big thank you for watching. I'll see you hopefully on another video soon.